Hallelujah. Give hallelujah. The highest praise. Hallelujah. Give him the highest praise. Hallelujah. Give me the highest. Yeah. In the morning when I wake up, in the night when I wake up, I will lift up my voice to heaven and give you the highest praise. Hallelujah to my King. Hallelujah to my Father. Hallelujah to my Jesus. I bow before the throne. When I look at all the wonder and I see all the creation, the beauty of the universe, you never, never change. You never, never lie. You never, never change. You never, never fail. Hallelujah to my Jesus. Hallelujah. 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 Hey, hey. Hallelujah. Hey. Give it. Hallelujah. Hey. The highest praise. Hallelujah. Hey. Give him the highest praise. Hallelujah. Hey. Give him the highest praise. I'm the friend, Jehovah, from the wall. All right, good evening, folks. We want to welcome you. Running a little bit late, not even a little bit, over 30 minutes late over time. It is the fault of the liberal progressive. That's how it looks like. When you hang out with a liberal, then it's a problem. And so we have to deal with it as it is. So we want to welcome you to this talking point. Today is Sunday. And this is your informative news magazine, Freedom Watch. We want to welcome our viewers and listeners across the globe. Our team of analysts, contributors, is standing by very shortly. We're going to get this program. As a matter of fact, there was some sort of emergency with our guest. Never better late than never. We have to do what we can do to have this conversation going. Stay tuned. We want to get this program to right on the way shortly. Hallelujah. Hallelujah, giving the higher praise here. This is by our Liberian gospel artist. Welcome. Hallelujah. Oh, yeah, yeah. Hallelujah. Hallelujah. Okay, good evening. As we said, we are falling behind time. It's 8:29 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Usually we are here at 8 p.m. Eastern local time here in the East Coast. I've been having some little technical problem as a result of the liberal progressive, but we have to deal with it. But we're going to get this program going. We're going to do the best we can to have this conversation. But as usual, let's take a little bit of rendezvous across the globe. ICC has officially lifted the arrest warrant on the former First Lady of La Côte d'Ivoire, Simone Gbagbo. ICC, that's the International Criminal Court, has lifted the warrant arrest. 2 MPs been arrested in Tunisia. A lot is ongoing, cracking down. And then the interim president of Mali has expressed election plan in light of fixed timeline transition. You know what's going on in Mali as well. These are minimal news making headlines in across the globe and other parts of the world, but my group are standing by. Let me bring in them quickly. We're going to be having a conversation, but we will still bring this here. A lot of things happen, but that's not going to deter us to do what we're supposed to be doing. We try to trace the politics roots of Liberia and the liberal, those guys that claim to be the liberal. It will be a very fascinating conversation. I still want to shoot that little tip. A former close confidant of Gabriel BACCUS Matthews. You remember after the 1980 coup, he was appointed as the foreign minister. Where is the agenda of the liberal in today's politics? He said alive or dead. What went wrong? He was about to speak to MTA all out here tonight, and something in the entering just inches to this program he came, but not with understanding. We're going to have a conversation. What's going on Capitol Hill? Those guys, students, university students, what? They're singing, chanting? What the heck is going on in that country? Let me bring our best team of political analysts standing here on LPR TV from Atlanta, Georgia. The man from the far right has always been described by the liberal, Mr. Amos George. Welcome to this program and good evening. Also, from the liberal lands of California, the most progressive liberal, claimed to be a liberty partisan based in the USA. That's something. Rocco Branto. Good evening to the liberal. Welcome. And from near the capital to Washington, D.C., a strong community advocate, an educator to involve in multitudes of roles on 2 schools in Liberia, and a strong supporter of the ruling establishment, CDC, Professor Asese Labozawlo, the best of political commentators, analysts, and contributors of the Liberia Public Radio. Let me bring in these guys here. Let's see what we're going to have here this evening. Who's going to fall by the wayside? Gentlemen, good evening and happy Sunday. How everybody doing?
Great.
Doing great.
We're doing great. I hope that you're fine as well.
I am always fine. If you are wishing for me not to be fine, I got a good news for you. The liberal, I am okay. I am fine. I am okay. Good evening, guys. Welcome. Okay, as you know, we're supposed to have Mr. Wallet, who happens to be a former close confidant of Gabriel Backup Matthews. Just in the interim for us to come out, something untimely emergency took place, so he's not going to be here. But we're going to talk. We really wanted to talk about the politics of Liberia, do some sort of little bit tracing to where we are and how far we have gone. Who was this guy here? Please, it wasn't me that threw you out. It is the defective devices and stuff that you are using, so you can't empty it on me now. So just to let you know, who did that? Was that me or you?
Of course, it's all coming from you, Mr. So. You're in control.
So why are the other gentlemen didn't go off?
Mr. So, because your dislike for the liberal is always shining through. So, let's go on. Let's go with the show.
Okay, all right, whatever you say. Okay, guys. Okay, yeah, I think it would have been a very perfect conversation here, but notwithstanding, we will still have this here at some point in time when Mr. Wallet, when things okay, and that has to do with the progressive agenda. And one of the persons who championed that cause was the former foreign minister and activist, one of the politicians, according to history, that led the multi-democracy that is being enjoyed today. We're going to go through that a little bit, and I'm going to get you guys take. We'll wait until he comes. But here is the former foreign minister of the Republic of Liberia, Gabriel Backup Matthews, when he addresses the United Nations in 1992. Let's take a little sneak peek, and then we'll be right back.
Full support and cooperation of the Liberian delegation as you put forward your best efforts to guide the deliberations of the Assembly. We offer your illustrious predecessor, Ambassador Samer S. Shihabi of Saudi Arabia, our deepest appreciation for the able manner.
Okay. Let's see here. Let's pause this here. That was the 56th session of Gabriel Backup Matthews. I think that will bring you into memory the liberal progressive, putting your head that that's some sort of little bit retrospect. And I was curious to know the agenda of the liberal. What I say alive, considering the politics of Liberia today, how divisive it has become, how it has been involved. This guy, he was a close confidant to Backup Matthews. And I'm not sure whether that sort of liberal or progressive agenda. I'm not sure whether it's still alive today. Let me get you guys quick take, and then we're going to switch gear here and look at other things that are happening. Are you hearing me, the liberal?
Yes, yeah. Were you speaking to me?
I'm speaking to everybody. So are you with us here, or where are you? You in Town this evening?
Mr. So, I have to respect this show. We have besides you, we have two other gentlemen, respectable gentlemen in the community. I cannot just come in here and try to interrupt. I will wait my turn.
I can like it's so nice to then. I think to fall apart here very shortly. Yeah, okay. You listen to that little bit short clip of the former foreign minister, UPP, Senator Barrett Gilbert Backup Matthews. And I'm wondering here if the dream of the liberal, I mean the progressive agenda those days, and you know the history of Backup Matthews. He's one of those that championed the multi-party system that we have today in the country. But is that progressive ideology, is it still alive, you think, Mr. Toll, considering what we're seeing unfolding in today's society in Liberia?
Yes, the progressive ideas of the days of Bacchus Matthew is still alive. Uh, just to let you know, when Mr. Matthew passed, I wrote a letter to him, and it was published on Front Page Africa. I I have an extensive uh, writing of Mr. Bacchus Matthew and those of the progressive at the time when they even started here. When Madame Salih was then the economic advisor to PA here in the United States. So I've been reading a lot about these people. Yeah, but their ideas of making sure one of the most important idea for them and yet in everything else, including the improving the lives of Liberia and what have you. But one of the critical things that they were talking about was one man, one vote. And that idea has been critically successful, to be honest with you. They're here. We now have, in two times now, a president that was elected, duly elected by the people, popularity context, ideas, and people. Oh, the first time they chose Madam Salih, that her idea was better, but this time around they chose Dr. Weir, that his idea is better, not only because he was popular, but it was one man, one vote. You can't go and vote and come back out and vote again. No, you vote one time, you're done. That's it. So the idea of one man, one vote, which was one of the major pillars of these people idea, is still around and it's here, and we're very thankful.
Okay, let me go to Mr. Amos George, standing by in Atlanta, Georgia. To Mr. Gates, in from Liberia, and our man Yusuf and the rest of the folks. Madam Slangat, we want to welcome you on LPL. So, Mr. George, let me come to you here. This idea of progressive. We saw in the 80s, in the 79s, the progressive ideology. Is there anything specific that we can remember of then? Is that progressive still idea is still alive today? Listening to what a liberal is saying, he happens to be one of the favor of the progressive. Is it alive to get into today's politics in Liberia?
In some sense, it's still going on. But there are two group of people who talk about progressive in Liberia. I'd like to get credit to the group, the Bacchus Mafia group, and Tower, because it was Tower that allowed a multi-party system in Liberia, that the PPP was registered on October. We should not forget that. Backup Matthews started this crowd, and Tobo bought into the idea. The rest is history. But and I hope, I don't know, Steve could come, but I sure will make every effort that he will appear in this program, because people don't know him. Most people, because he was the one who was chosen as vice president of the Bacchus Matthew. So this guy really know the inside of the progressive movement. But today, when we talk about the progressive, I went back to look at certain names. So there were 5 persons named who were the first coordinator of that movement. Today, we don't hear none of them. And I would like to ask, where are these people? Nathaniel Bear, Nathan Diabo, I think Marcus George, Soboli Kesali, and Jesus Suarez. These were the first 5 people who were recruited in Liberia by PAN to go to West Point, New Cruton, D. Kankara. These were the people
yes.
that was recruited to launch.
I think this guy down, right? Marcus Down. Was he part of that group?
No, Michael George, not Michael Down, Michael George.
Okay.
There were 5 person coordinator of PAN.
And the late Leslie Toba, he died of late. He was one of those that in the vanguard.
There are 2. There were 6, I think, but they said 2 had not been identified, something like that. But the 5 were Nathaniel Bear, Thomas, Michael George, Kessley, and Suarez. Those were the 5 that were recruited as coordinator in Monrovia, West Point, Booster Quarter, Slave Way, all the area. They were the people that were recruited. Lapasi, Effie, they were the people who were recruited. These were the people today, when we're speaking about progressive, they are the one we should salute. These were young guys, took the risk.
All right.
What they went through at the time, maybe government would have bought that at the time, but this guy was committed to seeing that we have 1 man, 1 vote in Liberia. So let me just recognize, I want to mention this.
Yeah, I know. Not the kind of political shenanigans we having in today's society. Politicians flipping here. Deacon Carter, Leslie Toba, these were the people that were really in the vanguard here. Let me bring in Professor Asese Labos Azawa here. Look, Professor Ty, I'm not sure whether the idea of the progressive that we saw how aggressive it was. We saw the 1979, and even prior to that, the task, the risk, the political commitments of these old-time politicians. I'm not talking about these little things these guys are doing around here. They are ballot-driven. They're not politicians. They are all there for their own cause. But is that progressive idea, is it alive today in Liberia? Is that something we can count on? What can we remember of them? Is there a sort of betrayal? I know those guys, some of them are rolling and spinning in their graves, saying the cause that they undertook and see how it's been compromised in today's politics in Liberia.
First of all, let me publicly say that for those who don't know it, BACCUS Matthew was my mentor. As a student of the University of Liberia, I became a member of the student integration movement, which had very strong ties with the United People's Party. So I'm a former member of the United People's Party. I would not be who I am today had it not been for people like BACCUS Matthew, Lambo Nelson, the rest of the other guys in the Progressive United People's Party. So my heart goes off to them. Peace be to the ashes of our great comrade, our fallen leader, BACCUS Matthew. The progressive ideas are still alive. In fact, the progressive ideas offer the most logical pathway for Liberia out of our present dilemma. The progressive idea was fulcrum and rooted in two foundational concepts. One man, 1 vote, which has been alluded to by my colleagues here today. It was also concerned about the equitable distribution of the wealth of our land. And I think there's hardly any Liberian out there who would deny, who would argue against what I'm going to say. Comrade BACCUS Matthew lived the life that a public servant should live. Even though there are many Liberians who will ridicule him that he died without owning a house, he died poor. But he spoke and lived what he believed. He wanted to see that people are sent to power and don't use power for the personal aggrandizement, but use power to improve the life and livelihood of people, of the entire population. And I tell you one thing, if you see what I do today, if there are people who are benefiting from what I do in Nigeria, don't look up to me, look up to him. Because from him that I get my inspiration, I got my inspiration. Be a servant to our people and not to not to make my people to be my servant. So the progressive ideas remain alive. It's giving us democracy. It's taking the power from the hands of a minority oligarch, a hegemony that denied the rights of the majority of the people. And now it has given power to the broad majority of people. Doesn't matter how the majority have used the power. But it's unfair, it is unjust, it is wrong, it's undemocratic for a tiny minority to control the power in the land. It's wrong. And so I think I'm grateful, especially so, to G. Barbara Matthew for what he did. Now, when you talk about other guys, you talk about Nathaniel Bear. Nathaniel Bear is still, he was active until quite recently. He's still been making calls for some of the changes that he wanted to see in Liberia. Some of the guys are still around. They're still doing.
I think all you guys still living. Marco George.
Most of them are still alive. Yeah, most of those guys are still alive. They are making contributions in one way or the party is still alive. From time to time, the party holds programs and activities, so the party is still alive.
Do you think here, if we were to make a guess, we're not going to go in deep, we're going to be switching gears to what is happening today, because I'm really anxious to see it, Mr. Duanbol, hopefully I'm calling his name, who happens to be a close confidant of BACCUS Matthews, and trying to speak out now. Is that something burning within that we need to understand here? So quickly, let's do a little bit push here before we can pivot here. Do you think why his party, a United People's Party, that was the party that challenged the status quo of the politics of Liberia? You know it with William Aratabot Jr. Why these parties you have Mr. Wanto now, who I don't know whether he's still a party chairman, why these institutions are not maintained? United People's Party. I can say almost he has died premature death. We don't hear about them. We hear about CDC, the Liberty Party, quote unquote, ALP, these people, this sort of party. Where is United People's Party? The party that Gabriel BACCUS Matthews. This is the guy who was to be executed when the coup took place. This is the guy who changed the political history, championed the cause of changing the political history in Liberia. His party has gone down the drain. Why these people could not uphold that party? Why?
Mr. So, now let me just say this here to you very quickly. The party, the party of the Progressive Party remains alive. There are young people who are very interested in parties survive. But let me tell you something, and then perhaps you will understand. Back in the days when Liberian Public Radio was still on internet radio, of course, I contacted former President Benny D. Wonder. And in fact, I brought him on air at one time. And during our conversation, when I asked you, being the former vice president who has insight of what is happening in Liberia and everything else, why aren't you helping about Madam Salif and the Progressive? He said, Mr. Tor, all I can tell you is our country people say, in order for you to plant a new mat, you must sit on the old mat. But these people refuse to sit on the old mat and they want to plant a new mat. And so when the tongue start juking, then when they go one side, then the mat, the way it's supposed to go down one side, become ugly. And this is exactly what we see. Mr. So, this is exactly what is happening. The Progressive, highly educated, okay, ideology, no question asked. They were always in the process of trying to help Nigeria. But when Liberia
somebody monitor on getting like a little echo if somebody listening. Mr. Widow, you want to check your end there? Do you have a monitor on? Does echo coming? All right, go ahead, Mr. Toll.
So when Liberia started coming up, after the coup, immediately after, in fact, one of the reasons why the coup happened the way it did was to set BACCUS Mafia and the rest of the people free. True story, which I know about. However, when they came in, they decided to help the young cool leaders by educating them, by making sure how policy is supposed to work. It didn't go well because immediately after that, they started having backbiting among themselves. And as a result, the cool leader themselves find out that these people were not dependable. And that's no things start going on even up to this time. This is the party of BACCUS Mafia. Marcus Down, okay, Dr. Farmland, all of these people, highly qualified. But when they got into the race, they couldn't even muster 1% of the vote of the Liberian people. Why is it? Because this is why people like Dr. Weah will go on and say education means nothing. Because these people have not done anything to actually progress the ideas that they were fighting for all these years. They were unable to do stuff to actually bring Liberians together under this one banner that they have, because they started biting each other and they didn't trust each other. One of the interesting things about BACCUS Mafia when you were here during the formation of the party, which I have documents of, there's a letter that he wrote. There was supposed to be a meeting, the first meeting. And one of the young men who was supposed to be the Secretary General at the time went in late, almost a day late. And when they were in there, he wrote a letter to this young man to say, we're here in the United States. What we're trying to put together an opposition party against the government, setting government of the Republic of Liberia. And we are unable to make it on time. We're trying to vacillate. And that's his word. We're trying to vacillate as to whether we want to be peaceful or not. What if this party, if it's successful, and we transform this party and take it to Liberia? Is this how you're going to behave? Is this how you're going to be late and coming to meeting in trying to impress the people so that we can get backing? He was not a person who would take these kinds of things very easily. And so he was very straight, very straight. And some of the documents, and I'm going to share them one day, and people will. I hope I share them before I send them to Indiana University. But Mr. So, it's a very interesting thing. And those of us who believe in the progressive idea, and we know it will be, Liberia will be successful. I don't care what these people do now. They have no clue. They have no clue. Being in government doesn't mean you know all. The people that fought, those are the people that you're supposed to. Just recently, they just decided to give Deacon color. Deacon to get him a little position now. This is the man that was going around Monrovia when people were shooting in 1979. He was going down around Monrovia trying to calm the young people, the progressive. Don't go to Monrovia. Don't go to downtown Monrovia because the shootings are happening. And this is a guy you're going to give a position and everybody start praising the president around here. This is laughable, Mr. So. But this is who we are, and that's what we do.
Okay, let me see. I think with that camera on, Mr. Joyce Wida is our senior contributor, joining us early morning from Asia. With that, welcome. Okay, we're going to be switching gears here, but let me ask here.
But the question now, Mr. So, is why did the seditions that are supposed to be our brothers on this platform out of a sudden they all disappeared? Because the progressive, we're talking about progressive idea, these sedition out of a sudden just went off and disappeared. This is something that is kind of concerning to me.
Well, when it comes back, as you usually say, the CDC professor, when he comes back, you can put that to him. But let me ask this here quickly here. Let me just move in. When he comes, I will see him backstage and I'm going to bring him. So, Mr. George, quickly here.
Yeah.
He said that their idea, the progressive idea, was socially oriented. Were they welcomed by Uncle Sam? And if so, why these people? I don't know whether they were given a sort of support or there was some sort of socialist idea attached to the agenda. Do you think? Because I don't understand why these people, most of them came here, and why they wasn't supported to the end of this whole marathon.
You know, that was a quicker way those days to destroy any progressive movement in Africa. Blend them as socialists, communists, they're gone. turn the people against them. That was the idea. So when back on Africa, when you go here in quarters, these are socialist ideas, these are communist ideas. That's how the people blended in.
Oh, yeah, you have ties with formerly with the Soviet Unions and stuff like that, all right?
And which, of course, it was not the agenda of Bacchus Matthew at all. To be a socialist or not. But the government took that to use it against them because they don't want to blame the people the people are going against them. But and still as my older brother to say this, we talk a whole lot, and I asked him all the time, what went wrong? He told me, he said, look, you know what happened? The agenda of the progressive was hijacked by the coup. He said, and that way, everything went first scatter. And today,
that's quite fascinating. It was hijacked by the April 12 coup.
Of course, because that process, the party was registered now. They were pushing the gears were multi-party system, election, and the coup came in. So when the coup came in, everything that
some of them were incarcerated. Some of them were incarcerated. So
let me push back a little bit.
Okay, let me welcome Mr. Widow. Widow is back here.
Let me say this.
Mr. George, let me push back a little bit on that, because the intent of the coup of that weekend happened because these people were being flogged at the army at the BDC.
So, Mr. Toe, the objective of the progressive was not a coup.
But when
they were in, hold on, the coup, they were in jail, yes. But the agenda of the progressive was not.
No, I would disagree with that. I would disagree with that.
Okay, hold on. Let me stabilize the conversation here. You were talking in the absence of Widow. You call him all sort of names. I'm not here to do Chiche Pole here, but Widow is here now. Do you have the guts to repeat what you said? Widow is here now to listen to you.
No, that's a spill milk. We're not gonna go over that.
That's a liquor talk.
Yeah, liquor talk.
That was a liquor talk.
Okay.
By the way,
welcome.
Let me say this here, Mr. Sir, if you don't mind.
Yeah.
The intent of the coup, my understanding, well, these people were supposed to be killed that Monday, and the group of the progressive soldiers decided they were going to free them out. And in fact, the way it was planned, if that had been carried out, there was going to be a bloodbath in Monrovia that day. Okay. Now, when these people were let out of the prison, they were brought in, and you know how many people was the coup member out of high school? Kuomba and maybe Do. The only people that have a high school, whatever you want to call it. The rest of them, the sixth grade was big enough. So, but when the PhD and the progressive, when they came in, they were supposed to influence the coup leaders to say this is what we have to do, and because they started teaching. But here's the interesting thing, and I hate to do this, but I'm going to do it anyway. The coup leaders, by the end of 1980, going to 81, they split them up. Moja has certain group that they were teaching. Pa has certain group that they were teaching. And so when you have that concept, because Moja and Pa idea is not the same. In fact, they believe, yes. So, but when they started teaching, interesting things happened. When I left from here and got deported back to Liberia, when I got to Liberia, my little brother, who was also part of the coup member, who was just a sixth grade student, it was amazing. This young man could quote you Malcolm X. He could quote you Martin Luther King. He had an album, 2 albums, one from Martin Luther King, one from Malcolm X, and he used to play them day in, day out, day in. I know exactly where he get that from. But the point that I'm trying to make here is, when these people started teaching the coup leader, the ideas of bringing together, of trying to carry out a specific idea of what is to happen to Liberia, started going diverging. Let's put it that way, and it was just a mess.
Okay.
So what I'm trying to say, I mean, Mr. Toe is entitled to his view, but In
Okay,
that process,
why now we hold far with this conversation until we
yeah,
have the insider of the progressive. Let's leave
yeah.
it hanging it is here. Let's see here. Okay, let's have a conversation here. This is I saw this here a couple of hours. I don't know whether the idea of the progressive was beneficiary. Like Professor Zablo said, he one of the mentors. But this is what I believe. This is what unfolded today on Capitol Hill. Let's see here, and we can see what are these were some of the ideology of the progressive.
Welcome to Women's TV Liberia. Today is July 30th, and we are somewhere at the main entrance of the University of Liberia, where the Student Unification Party, the campus-based party here, is demanding the cancellation of e-learning that the administration issued.
Look, guys, let's have a conversation here. That's the students of the highest institutions of learning, at the University of Liberia. I'm not sure what our Professor Zablo during your days. Those were some of the things that was I demonstrated. We know society, time has involved significantly, but this is quite amazing. And I'm not sure whether these things comes overnight. My guess there can be some sort of backstage talking, conversation is being kept, and then when it gets over the line, then expel out before we can get access to what we are seeing happening here. But you are Professor, you are a guy. When you see the nation higher institution of learning, students in that sort of faction to channel their grievances, what is lacking?
Well, what? Look, let me say this. Let me preface my my point here by saying that for those who don't know out there, I attended the University of Liberia between 1983 to 1987. I was a student activist. I belonged to the student integration movement. In fact, I was the candidate for the third highest position in the University of Liberia Student Union. I did not win on the ticket of the student integration movement. I ran to be the student representative to the University Council. During my time at the University of Liberia, I think I kept a record. I led 22 boycott of classes at the Science College due to the lacking of bus to move students from Monrovia campus to the Fender campus. I think I wouldn't say that times have changed. So at that time was necessary, and this time is not necessary. But here's what I would say, look, my actions when I led those boycotts, it was about the core, what affected our learning. If there was no bus to take us to school, to the campus, to the Fender campus, we wouldn't learn. Okay? Plain and simple. So that was something that affected the core operations of the University of Liberia. We got to be concerned about learning. Today, the students are demonstrating about e-learning. They are resisting this whole concept of e-learning. I do not know how much efforts they have put into engaging the authorities at the University of Liberia. I have my own premonitions. I have my own reservations about e-learning. I do not think we have breached the digital divide sufficiently enough to be implementing e-learning in Liberia. There are too many disadvantaged students at the University of Liberia who don't necessarily have a cell phone, cannot afford a device, have not been trained to use those in that form of learning. So I think it's premature to do it. Albeit aspirational, I think gradually we should begin to introduce some of our courses into that direction. But here's the way you solve these problems in this modern day and age is not by doing what I see over there. It's by engaging the authorities of the University of Liberia. Now, because I do not know how much they have done to engage the authorities of the University of Liberia, and they haven't, what they are doing over there, they didn't demonstrate to me that they have done that. I don't see it. So it will be difficult for me to criticize them, but I think their actions right now, it's sort of unnecessary. It's not going to solve the problem. I think they need to go back and listen. This is not what we did. It's different from what we did. And this doesn't elevate the university. The university has a lot of issues that the student unions could be involved with. And those issues are not being addressed. The issues about bribery, the issue about the quality of education. These are concerns that the student union should be raising. I haven't seen or heard SOUP or also raise these issues. These are key issues that we're concerned about. So I think the actions today is unfortunate. I think it's attention seeking. I think we need to teach our students better ways, more contemporary ways of channeling their grievances instead of dressing in that way and acting as South African when you are from West Africa.
Before I go to the other group of panelists here, what I didn't hear from you two, Professor, as to whether or how did the administration, what it took into consideration first and foremost, and I cannot agree with you because my daughter is there, nearly from all week, almost $20 I have to use to transfer what they call credit data, Lone Star or Cellcom. They have their own to cut off for whatever reason it is here. So why will the administration, what was their own study? What is their own finding? What did they even take into consideration, considering all of these financial constraints? Like here, we enter a house, Wi-Fi, you go to public places, you have that, it's everywhere. Campus, you on your university, you have access to Wi-Fi. I'm not sure whether that's the case. I have not found out, but I'm not sure whether that is the case. So don't you think they also to kick that can down the road?
The university dropped the ball. The administration dropped the ball. Look, when the university implemented the first e-learning program, I provided resources for students in Katata to be trained on how to utilize it, so to use the e-learning system. There was a lot of students at the workshop that we conducted that said that they had absolutely no idea about how to do it. Look, there are people at the university library, I wouldn't call names, who are pushing the university into this kind of direction. Oh, we must go online. They do it in America. They do it in other parts of the world. But do we have the infrastructure? Do we have the economic base to implement it? Absolutely. No, we don't. But here's the thing. There are other things that could be done that have not been done. One, in other countries, here's what they do. They engage the internet service providers so that when the students are on this platform, this learning platform, it doesn't affect their data. You know that? Yeah, in other countries they do it. In developing countries, they make a deal with the internet service provider so that when the students are accessing the e-learning platform at the University of Liberia, for example, it does not affect their data. Now, those are things that the University of Liberia should have considered first to see if they could engage. And I'll be very honest with you. At some point, there was a discussion about me playing a certain role in Liberia. And I felt that the network was so important. So even before I stepped up to assume that role, I was already engaging those responsible so that what I'm talking about would have been allowed. That while the students were online using the services provided by these institutions, that they should not go against their data. Then you level the playing field. But like you said, you got $20 to give to your daughter. When I went to University of Liberia, I had friends walking from all the way across the bridge to the University of main campus to get the bus to go to Fender. And they'll be standing by the bus. They don't have money to pay. They will go to the bus. Some of us were up at 2. My father was an assistant minister in the government of Liberia. So I would have money to share with some of my friends to put on the bus. But I know what it means for a lot of students at University of Liberia. So poor. They can't afford it. So this was not well thought about. And I think the president needs to do something. He needs to shut it down and open school, open the university for face-to-face in-person learning to start. I think we just need to put it off. It's just not something that's workable.
Okay. Well, Widow?
Oh, yes. Thank you so much for having me. Actually, I should have been on a flight to work now, but the weather here is bad, so the flight was delayed. So that's why I'm here. But look, I found the topics, very interesting, especially the progressive one. I'm not old enough to know exactly, what happened those days, but what I've read, I've also got a little bit of information, especially from about George. He just explained a few things that that resonated with me. And as we go forward, I will make my own contribution when it comes to that. But I want to address the one the professor just talked about the university students, the the manner in which they are going about making their grievances heard. I think to me is flawed. We understand that before people used to pay for the units. Now it's almost free, as I'm told. And these students are finding it hard again to embark on the e-learning platform that has been provided by the university. I think when it comes to that, my own understanding would be that there should be an engagement, just like the professor said. I don't think it should be something that will result into, a grandstanding, or some, showmanship. I think this is about they are learning, and we all, yeah, we do online learning, but what makes it different is that we have the opportunity. We have the internet. I can sit here. My courses are doing online. As soon as the time comes, my phone go alarm. I come on my computer, I open it, and start to learn and listen to instruction. And do my research and do everything. But in Liberia, it's kind of different, and we would not be able to comparatively, analyze, those things. But what I want to say is that I think it's about time that we negotiate instead of these kind of public shows. I think it's detrimental to even the people that are coming before us. So it's my my own take on that.
Okay.
And look, Alfonso, let me just come to another point. Look, they don't. The university have courses. They offer computer courses, classes, or introduction to information technology, and the rest of it. As a student, they don't even have the devices enough to be able to teach those classes. And significant number of the university professors don't even have any idea of the e-learning thing. I have worked with professors at the University of Liberia, and they've asked me questions. I don't want to be disrespectful to my colleagues, but they have asked me questions that I've been amazed at. How would these people be implementing e-learning when they don't do things?
When the facilitator can't even,
No.
who's supposed to facilitate the process?
Those guys cannot even do a PowerPoint. So how are you going to do e-learning when you can't even make a PowerPoint? How do you present your lesson to the students? I mean, let's be real. And the reason why they don't know is not because they are stupid. It's not because they are stupid, but they were not even exposed to these things.
We were giving the liberal last year again this evening. So let me hear from him here. I don't know what are you going to come up with a red meat. The liberal.
Well, good to hear from the. I said, well, it's good to hear from CDT professor, and it's also good to hear from staunch sedition admitting the inept behavior of their political leaders, and so I will just let that go for that. But look, Mr. So, I think, and I do agree with the two gentlemen, but this is also the reason why Liberia is the way they are. They give you responsibility. Is usually when you get these kinds of jobs, and I've never been a minister before, but I've been a project management and stuff like that. When you're given these positions, not necessarily to just sit there and say, okay, this is what they say, and the instruction or whatever. You have to plan. If you want to make this this process, if you want to make it real, who are the end user? That's the people you try to target. You don't target the internet seller. They're already going to get money. What away? Who are the end user? And do they have the ability to do these kinds of stuff? Number one. The second thing is, and these people are educated. This is what baffles me. Highly educated. These people are not slash. So they know exactly. They've done lots of research. They've done work here in the United States. And you can't do these kinds of stuff in this country when you're given these kinds of positions. Or else you find yourself right out the door. Because this is the failure None of the system, but of the manager himself. Now, having said that, let's go back to the young people themselves. Their behavior is what brought Jefferson Kochi. Their behavior is what brought Monuba Molo. And all of these people that are now in power enjoying today. This is how to come to power. They're trying to say they want to buck the system. But this is what you can have that kinds of conversation with the professors. You can have that kinds of conversation with even the University of Liberia leadership. You don't have to be in the street, because here's what they're doing. And when they're in the street, they pick a leader that will speak for them. And that leader will also now going to be recognized by the authority as someone who's to pay close attention to. And now that person has been elevated. The next thing you know, the person, anything, he will be in the front of it. It's been going on since trouble time. Any little thing on campus, as soon as they identify the leader, they go after the leader. By the time you look, the leader becomes a major star in Liberia. We have Ezekiel Bible, we have Community Wisa, we have all of these people. I can go down the list and name them. And one of the things you'll find out, and I've never been to LU, but one of the things you will find at LU, maybe I'm wrong, but I'll say this: most of these student leaders, they vie for this position as a way of getting employment with the government. Simple, nothing else. So, but their behavior is also hurting the other students. And many of these people you find in the street there, if you go ask them, you might most likely not find an engineering student.
No.
You don't have time for that.
Political science.
Social
work.
Social workers. Criminal justice major and social worker. Listen, they got free time. But you have to deal with the being, calculation of the being. And you also have to deal with calculating hydrology and all that kind of. You don't have time to be in the street. To be truthful, you have no time. That's what we have.
This is unusual here tonight, folks. Now on the Libra, I'm coming to you, Pa George. The Libra is now forming. There's some sort of alignment here that I see it with all they're moving quite late. Impressed with what the Libra is saying. And Pa George on the far left, and they're saying no. Pa George, what's your argument?
Yeah, I did not go to the University of Liberia, but I think Professor Zhao can attest to it. The most radical students are from the science department and medical students. Those are the radical, not those that who to political science. Professor, I think he can attest to that. Yeah. Now, something has been said here. I listened to this, you people, but I listened to the group the other day. They had a spokesperson. The gentleman said they have written a territory of the university, the president, that this e-learning is not feasible. Yeah. But he said that the president, the authority, had not listened to them. So therefore, I think normally this is an option they will say left for us. Then he went further to say, he said, even the president of the university, he's doing, I think, service, his church service is not being conducted online, but he asked us to do e-learning online, knowing that we don't have the facility to do this thing. And he said, we are rating them, but there have been no response. Maybe if people go back to play some other thing, you will see them speaking about that. Yeah. But equally, I do not condone this idea, black in the street, all the kind of thing. Yeah. There's other way they can demonstrate to protest against what is happening on campus.
Let me ask this question here. There's something else I'm going to be saying. Hopefully, I'm hoping here, because there was a footage that I saw today, which again is so much alarming. It's touching from the Liberian News Agency. I'm trying to see whether Director Kwame Weeks can also join here. But Professor, gentlemen, why our leaders, why administrators, knowing fully well something that's going to backfire or something that is just not feasible, that is just not ideal, why would they deliberately drive themselves, put themselves in this sort of situation? And they are not even willing to wait, even to look at the pros and cons of these kind of things before even introducing that. Why are they always doing that? And they just don't have I'm sorry to say, the ability to engage. Because So see the student get it. I don't know all of it yet, but it's not an overnight event. And I can for sure say that. Like what Joy say, and you will always hear them tell we run the administration, we try to do it, and they will just play them that ear. Let them do what they want to do. This is not good for the country. These things, it doesn't matter. 2% stands in it. We see people demonstrate here. That's okay. But our land, our continent is a different. The reflection, the receiving end, the connotation of that is just not good for national government, for national society. Why our leaders, why these administrators look at these things and they just deliberately do not have a second thought of their decision-making process? Why?
Some people like this one. Our country is one of the only countries in the world wherein we start to make a road, start to build road, and then suddenly we say, "Oh no, the rain season coming, so we got to stop." But it was we had a chance to decide when we were supposed to start this road. But then we don't factor that in, and we start the project, and we stop in the middle of it. Or we say the students got to go to school, the construction of the road will be disruptive to them. So why don't we plan? Do we use data? One of the things I'm engaged with in Liberia is that whatever business, whatever thing I'm managing, I'm telling the people that our decisions are informed by the data. So whether we're going to add 3 classes next year or whether we're going to drop the number of classes is informed by what we have today. In Liberia, we don't do those things. The second thing is that we are ambitious, sometimes overly ambitious. I know this whole thing at the University of Liberia. There's one person who's driving this thing. I'm not going to say his name. One person.
Why? Is it a secret?
He worked in a similar system in America. He left that and he's going to live his dream in Liberia. Well, he knows the people over there are not prepared for it. It's not the first institution he has tried this thing with. He had tried with another institution and he was not successful over there. Now he comes to the University of Liberia.
Can we invite that? Can you tell us that person so we can invite that person? Why? Maybe there's a reason.
Off there, and then we can invite him. Yeah,
okay.
I would give you his name off if we can invite him. So those are some of the things. I want to also make a comment on. So this thing is, and Mr. John, if the student leaders did tell them that, this wasn't going to work, we're supposed to change it, then like Mr. So said, we usually don't give these people a lot of opportunity to really express their grievances. Maybe this is the way the kids know that when they do it like this, they will come on LPR.
That's how they seek redress.
Then that's how they get a redress. Until our leaders begin to be proactive and begin to plan and make decisions on the data, then the students will be doing these kind of things. And it's unfortunate that they have to do it because we are teaching them the wrong thing. We need to listen. We need to make plans. We need to prepare.
Engage them.
But yes, the last thing I wanted to say is a little off the topic, but yeah, Mr. George, to some extent, is right. Some of the most radical student leaders at University of Liberia from the science and engineering and medical school. I could go ahead and name, I won't say most, but some of the most radical students at the University of Liberia come from. I was considered to be one of the most radical when I was there, and I was from Science College. Mabutu Yimpa, they did Mabutu Vla Yimpa.
But engineering.
I could go on and give you Ezekiel Pajibo, majoring in biology.
Wotapia
was in sciences. J. Augustus Verdier, who's a Dr. Verdier, vice chairman for SOUP. He's also doing biology at that time. I could go ahead and give you the list. Dr. Dubanya was also in Science College also. So a lot of us came from the Science College area and science and engineering and medical field, agriculture and all. Yeah, and so we came from there. So but these are the kind of things that destroy the country. And the thing about it is that, we want to do great things. I like the idea that we must get into this information age. It's good for our country, okay? But it just can't start overnight. It just can't.
So let me ask this question here. Be at the university, I for sure know during the active students politics, be it the high school, universities, and other higher institutions of learning, there was this sort of attention that I used to factor in where the administration will engage with the student leadership. Is that happening today? Anybody can point that to say, okay, where you have students represented to the faculty, things come in, they go there, they have this sort of conversation and see why it is to get their input, even if their input will not be taken. Are these people having this sort of conversation with the student leaders? Do they consider them, or okay, you know what? We're going to take the action. We're going to take the decision. We'll just throw it at them. Whatever it is, they will deal with it. The liberal. Do you think they are engaged in the student leadership? Yeah.
I don't think so. I don't think so because if they were, I don't think we'll be at this spot. But let me just say this, here, Mr. So, I think the student himself, they are not people who are fighting for a cause. Most of them, they do these things, they get involved to be noticed. Because if you're fighting for a cause, there must be some other way to address for your issue to be addressed than to be and trying to close the street. And because when you get into that realm, because people are not listening to you, so you want to take the law into your own hand, and you're supposed to be one of the some of the future leaders. Then what future is it that we have to put in your hands? I understand they have issue and people are not listening to them. That's fine. I understand that. But there must be another way.
So what is
Our
that?
young
What
people
could,
must be,
what could be the example of that?
Give me another way.
well, the other way that I have, for example, you don't have to do the street. You can go in front of the administrative building and express yourself. One. Second thing is this. On LU campus, I believe they have what they call Palava Hut. And I've never been on LU. I've
Yes,
never studied at LU before. You go to those places and have like a discussion. During we just talked about pipe earlier. When they used to organize and bring up to coconut plantation, they got podium. And each one of these speakers with a bullhorn will come and explain to us what was happening. And by the time they're done, those of all who have ears to hear will yay. If you do the similar stuff like that on LU campus, you
For
go to the
sure.
Palava Hut because that's supposed to be an intellectual center. And not only are people of even some faculties will come and listen to you because then you express yourself, you explain yourself why you think this is a wrong idea. But the stuff you just showed us, making it kind of beside the placard. If you are just to see it, you think of CDC battle cry. They're getting ready to go to war again. You know, you will not think that these people are talking on the intellectual level.
Oh my
So,
God.
so the point that I'm trying to make here, Mr. So, is this: if you are part of an intellectual class, you discuss issue based on intellectual behavior. You go to the center, every one of you prepare yourself to make your speech, and people
All
will
right.
come and cover it. Then to go
Look,
in the street,
So let me
Yes,
bring
to
let
go
me
up and
let,
down.
let me bring in Widow here a little bit. I think the liberal now intentionally decided to poke Widow, knowing who Widow is and his political affiliation. There are so many battle crowds in there, but the liberal progressively, calculatively say
yeah,
they look like CDC battle crowd. Do you have a problem
yeah.
with that, Widow?
Look, I don't really have problem with that, but here's what I gotta say. I think like the original question you asked about whether there's still representation from the student body into the faculty and the administration of the school. I think it still exists. But here's what I picked from Mr. To. He said something. He said most of the people do these things to be noticed. Let me tell you, those people still exist that coordinate between the uh, the administration and the student body. But because these days the loudest person in a group, whether they are wrong or they are right, they become the head. So what happens is that even if you are a quiet person like Mr. So, who is negotiating, though the loud mouth behind you will take the lead and everybody else will follow them and they will leave you there standing and they will go and demonstrate. I think that's what happening because they are doing it to seek attention, not attention for their well-being, but for their individual well-being. That is to get jobs, like what the progressive said. He said to get jobs, and these people would do this thing solely just to be noticed and then be called, like Ellen used to do, call them and get them job, and that's it. Like even Ben Sanvi did the same thing, by speaking out. he got called, and then he got scholarship. And these are the things that still exist. And these people think they can use these same things to get their way through the system and go about it. And I think that's wrong, because Liberia, what I do know is that we need to break off from the progressive way of thinking and now think about a more contemporary way of doing things to make sure that we catch up, with the world that is speeding ahead of us.
Is the
Here's what
progressive
one
way
more
not
thing.
working for us?
I don't think it is working. It didn't work. It will never work. And I
Does
think,
it cause harm to our society today, in your
yes,
view?
it did. It did, to an extent. The reason I say it actually did harm to our society, because most of the people who were engaged with that movement, I think, what they were all involved with was, I think, the progressive said it that, or Pajor said it, that people were trying to link them to socialism or whatever it were, and they were trying to achieve. But I think they were actually seeking their own interests as well. Like Mr. Bacchus Matthew,
No,
this
no, no, no,
man
no, no,
had
no,
more
no,
than
no, 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 no,
this
no.
man
Hold on,
had
but
more than 10 wives.
George,
This man had
you
more
have
than
your
10
view.
wives. Say that again.
No, I said
Mr.
George, you have
Mr.
your view.
Widow, when were you born?
Well, that's not the point of the discussion here.
No, no,
I
no, no, no,
understand that.
Mr. Widow. If you're gonna come here now and say Bacchus Mafia have more than 10 wives,
So,
then I
Mr.
like to
Tor,
know not your age, but your age.
Mr.
Name
Tor,
the
No,
wives. Name the wives. Name them. Name
Mr.
them.
yeah.
Tor, your
Yes.
leader and his friend,
But
that you
those
always
that
talk
is
about
that
people
is that is
sanctioning you. You
that's
want to
that's
sanction
the
leader
type
now
of
for his view?
thinking, the mentality of the people. I think it is way back. I think what we need to do now is look for a more contemporary way of thinking, and plenty. The professor said it, and I agree with him that we need to plan. Let me tell you a few examples of how we don't plan. We got good intentions as people, and even this government got really good intentions. But I think what they're lacking, in that intention, is planning and forward planning. Because I observed that the real life market situation, these guys had a
Exactly.
very good plan. We're going to move these people out of the street to take them to a secluded place
But
where
what
they
is
can do their
lacking?
businesses.
Quickly, what is lacking?
But guess what? They did not plan enough to know that, okay, what is the size of red light, and the building that we are going to construct, how big it is to contain these
I
people.
love this show tonight. This has
You see,
become the liberal show tonight, folks,
and
Okay.
and
and
and, and
I'm
because that
enjoying it
happened,
because
because
Mr. Wheeler and
Okay.
The professor, the
Okay.
only person
All
that
right.
is left out right now is Mr. George.
Okay, folks,
But
you want to be having, I told
man,
you,
you don't want to ask the man for his age since he's talking about the real life market
no, no,
disaster.
no.
yeah, no, no,
I
it
mean,
doesn't matter
I mean,
anymore.
something he doesn't tell people his age or what. But okay, guys, I'm bringing one of the veteran in this business because there's something that I saw today. In fact, every time his production, something will capture my attention. And I found on here several times, where is the National Rehabilitation Commission? With all of the lawmakers having their own NGO under the umbrella of they're going to rehabilitate. Joining us now from the nation's capital is the Director General of the Liberian Youth Agency, Director Kwame Opa Weeks. Director Weeks, thank you for being up this late hour here. JOT just right here on time. I want to be bringing that here, but let this guy end with their whole ballad that they are on here. Pa George, let me go to you, and then I want to come down to the Liberal. Will come down to Director Weeks.
Uh, Mr. Widow, let me tell you this. Let me just abuse your idea to mention that Mr. E. Bacchus Matthew was in it for himself. I find that very offensive to the late Bacchus Matthew. Do more research on Bacchus Matthew, what they did, that today your CDC government are benefiting from. And for you to come and sit on this platform to say that he was in it for himself, I find that very insulting to the late Bacchus Matthew and others. They took their life. These guys were beaten every day the post target. I asked people in Morocco where children grown up. The late church people, they were beating. According to the church, he had to take beating someone for Bacchus Matthew. So to sit there and say that these guys were in there for themselves, no. You know how much offer the Toba government gave these guys to abandon the idea, and they refused. How many of you people today, your young people today, your guys supporting yelling in the street, how many of them would have done that for Liberia? And for you to come on this platform to say that BACCUS Mafia and others was in there for themselves, I find it that being disingenuous to you and to the progressive people, those guys, people like Deacon Carter, Wesley Johnson then. Yeah, I have my own differences with them, but I will never use that word against them. Because today, we sit now on the platform talking. It's because those guys, what they took at the time to change the one-man vote, equity in Liberia, that's what we were speaking about. And today, you're benefiting from it, directly or indirectly. So I just want to let you know.
Okay, let me just say something quickly before he comes. Before
okay,
someone
30
comes.
seconds. Let me create a chaotic situation, and we'll welcome the Director General.
Great, thank you. Look, there's something that I've never said to anyone that I have experience with the late BACCUS Matthew. I was at a CDC headquarters. At the time, I worked for the UN. I had to sneak out of office to go to the CDC compound and to see what was happening because George Weah was coming there. So I stood to a place where BACCUS Matthew was standing just next to me. And I admire this guy. So I actually decided to go close, just to see his demeanor, and what he was there for and what he was trying to do or achieve. And then everybody came close to him and people were just looking at him. And then George Weah started to come in the compound. The entire crowd went into a frenzy. So what I actually wanted to see was his comportment, during that particular, frenzy. And when I look back, I saw the joy on his face. And he just looked at where George Weah was coming from. And to me, what that spoke to me was that this is what we've been fighting for. I understand that. However, if you look at, if you compare Martin Luther King Jr. with BACCUS Mafia and the Progressive, and I'm not going to say BACCUS Mafia alone, or did this thing and it was only for him. I think people actually fought for freedom or for equity in the Liberian society without their own interests. But I think the overall idea of the Progressive was to achieve their own, agenda, and that's my position.
Very quickly. Yeah, let me bring in a professor here. Professor, before I go to Director Week.
Yeah, I wanted to come to you with. I will give you a story about BACCUS Matthew. When I was in SIM, we happened to engage BACCUS Matthew. I happened to be around there for some time.
But let me just ask you first here. What are you going to denounce and say? Do you agree with what he said? BACCUS was in it for himself?
No, BACCUS wasn't in it. But I was going to tell him. BACCUS Matthew would bring money. You have money, and he would give money out to people, and would take always just the smallest, the least of it. He wanted to make sure his colleagues had enough so that they could not necessarily be purchased easily, so that they would be able to fight for the movement to transform Liberia. Every man had their own filters. BACCUS Matthew had his own filters. So I would say that to him. But, you talk about Martin Luther King, right? You talk about BACCUS Matthew having, 10 wives?
What about Dr. King?
Dr. King is your hero? That guy was a playboy. He was a pastor. BACCUS Matthew never went on the pulpit.
Yeah. That's what Murphy said.
All right.
Let me leave it there. So next time, don't bring yourself in trouble bringing Martin Luther King and play a playboy pastor with BACCUS Matthew, who was not necessarily ever in the church. He was not a pastor, right? But so.
All right. Okay. Let's work on a friend and brother. One of the veterans in this business, Director Kwame Opa Weeks. That's the Director General of the Liberian New Agency, Lena. On this early morning hour from the nation capital of Monrovia. Director Weeks, good morning.
Good morning and good morning to all my dear brothers out there. You all guys are looking so sharp and great, and I'm enjoying the conversation. Thanks for having me, Mr. Soul.
Okay. At the right time, you are here because I follow a footage from you in every other time. But today, again, was one of those that captured my imaginations, and it just validated my argument here, Mr. Director. Where is the National Rehabilitation Commission? And I'm going to be playing here, courtesy of the Liberian New Agency. I'm going to play it, and I'm quite sure the panelists themselves, they will be glad to also take a sense, and our followers, those who never had a chance to see that, I want to play a little piece of it, and then we'll come right down to the conversation. Folks, let's watch and see. Courtesy of Liberian News Agency.
Within the next 5 years, this nigga there will be. Wow. So we need
You're joking.
Yes, seriously. We are dying.
Wow. And then all of this, look at the flag on the wall.
Telling you that we love Liberia.
Wow. And how much would that something like that go?
This one costs 450 Liberian.
450.
Yes.
Wow. Okay, this place.
Let's live in here, smoking here. We just provide this for.
So every day. So every day, this is just what you guys do.
Yes, reason being that we don't want to be in problem with the government. We don't want problem, and these guys, if we don't give them area for them to be
right, they'll go out.
100%, they'll be out on the street. And usually we see the DA and other.
Let me stop it here. We will roll in here a little bit. Okay, guys, let's have a conversation, and let me bring in the Director General. Again, let me ask this question. You work for the government of the Republic of Liberia, correct?
Correct.
And you go out there restructuring the media industry, taking the camera out, is not being edited, is uncensored, and you put it out there, going into those pits or into those ditches and showing what is happening to the world.
Yeah, for me, from my point of view, I think thanks to Mike Zuckerberg, we can use that particular part or app or plugin, whatever it is called, for a positive measure in our country versus us using on Facebook every time attacking one another. Our country was destroyed by us. We decided one day that we're running a good marathon or a relay, and then the baton was hijacked. And so we decided that we wanted to retweak what was already, what didn't spoil, we decided to fix it. And so look what we settled for. If I may, for lack of a better word, because the country people say they overthrew because the other people were killing people. Then the other people say, okay, we will take out the country guys because we think they're killing people. But they did worth 250,000, and that's just a number that were given to us. But who knows whether that number was quadrupled? The way we were killing and maiming and dismembering each other or one another for that kind of foolishness. So I thought now that to show what the problem is, to go deep into the problem versus us going on a band-aid approach. So we come out in this town, and no disrespect to my colleagues, you tune into radios in the morning and they're going after one another, ahead, and then next person gets paid, and then they stop and they go back to the next. It's a recycle while the ordinary people are dying and suffering. So how do we change all of this amidst the moment where people are only bickering over things in the comfort of their homes? So I thought, no, as the leader of this agency, myself can go into these slums, into these dungeons or whatever you may call them, and bring out what's happening, so that you will hear when you're cruising on Morovia on the boulevard, you say Morovia sweet, Morovia sweet. No, there is an aspect to it. There is something to it. So that's why.
Do you get permission, Director Weeks, to do what you are doing?
I'm the director of the news agency, and there's something in journalism that says oddity, and that's what we're showing. Features.
Do you receive phone calls from the higher up to say, hey, you are heading ahead of your shadow at times? Have you received any phone calls on that?
Never, because this government was the only government the Abdullah K. Abdullah bill passed by this president on freedom of speech to make sure that everything comes to public glare. This government is not responsible for somebody who say I've been taking drugs 13 years ago. I'm addicted 6 years ago. I'm addicted 5 years ago, 20 years ago, 14 years ago. So th- I don't think that's something any government officials from us will want to
Yeah,
delve.
we always, and panelists don't hesitate to come in and our staff. We always engage with our onliners here. This is what Mr. Taizawu is saying. If these guys can pay 450 to buy a drug, so what wrong with these guys here? Now, the call that plays there, Director, we Zimbabwe. Do you ask them the question why it was named Zimbabwe? We in Liberia. Why they decided to give it that sort of name? What was it? Any
According to according to what I heard, Zimbabwe got that infamous name. That place got that name because at the time they felt that people who came from there didn't care. That don't care kind of Robert Mugabe attitude. So that posture. So that's how the place got its name. When the first guys who moved to that dilapidated, unfinished building, they named it that, and the name stuck, and the rest of the people that been coming. The guy said they moved in that building. I think it was 2003 or four when they moved in that building.
Okay, folks, panelists, let me give you a little bit sneak peek, and we will come back to the discussion because this is it's just something.
Where do you stay? You stay in the house. How do you feed your habit?
My habit of working. Yeah. To some where what is saying.
How much do you use on your fix per day? How much money you put behind drugs a day?
Yeah, God, yeah. So now you 300, so now you 600
A day.
Yeah.
If you're lucky, you go six.
Yeah, so now you 150. I was on the face. Yeah, you put 150, bring 150,
Yeah.
yeah, it's on the face.
Let's go to this guy right here. You. What's your name? Diamond? Diamond, how old are you? 16.
Let me stop it right there. Professor,
Mm.
the Liberal Progressive, by George.
Yeah,
Before,
director.
before
Let me say thank you to the director.
I come in 1 second, Mr. George. I'm going to be coming to you. And for every time, even if I miss his program overnight, I got to go back to see it because every time it kind of like it brings something to my mind. Now, these are people, and when you listen to that whole clip, there are over 400 people are there. And even some of them were even talking on camera. Lawmakers, people went for them in a pit, in the holes, and took them to Buchanan, Jennington Carpet. I listened to that.
Yep.
And,
Yep.
and other people for them to go vote and brought them back. And here they are today. Now, and
Yep.
this is what I kept saying here, the National Rehabilitation Commission. Where is this rehabilitation process when you have a group of people? I don't think that's a place for any human being to live. Even though I didn't go there, but from what I saw, I watched that footage. It says, so where is this rehabilitation? How can we get out of this here? Where are the lawmakers? The people that somebody wrote here, Mr. Thomas here wrote here, they're signing for 15K, 30K. They don't even consult with their constituencies. Nobody, they don't go there. These people are completely rejected and neglected now by society. And they end up being liability on society because one of them is that, oh, yeah, Director Wisha is that we don't get close or sometimes when he will go, we see people close hanging according to him, we kapu it because we got to put on something and we leave the
Right.
one that we leave it. Now, that's what happens when society or national leaders neglect their responsibility. These people become liability on society. Pa George, go ahead.
Yeah, I was saying thank you to Director Weeks. It is our responsibility to rehabilitate these people, national government, because at the end of the day, if we don't do so, our communities, our cities will not be safer. us. Because if you know anything about drug usage, certain time, if somebody needed, they can't get it, they will do anything to get money to get
Yeah.
that drug.
Yeah.
So that was some of all trying to talk to national leaders. Your fence, you gotta get your house, your fence is 6 feet. But if that guy need that drugs and he know that he can get something from you, your find means to get in there. And sometimes you may not be lucky. So this is of national concern. I think for some of what we need to continue to do is to call on national government to make sure that some of these people, those that can be rehabilitated and put back into society, find something to do that they can keep their mind from going back that way. But Director Rich, you said something about people thought that was the way to go. And this is something I don't like for us to go back there. Because some of our war in Liberia, what led to this civil war? We know what happened, we know the history. And it just come out of the sky. Some group of Liberians at the time were being eliminated by another group. So we can't just say, oh, we thought there was a way to go and this is the end result. It was something that led to that. People didn't just wake up one night or one morning and say, hey, we're going to wage war. No. There were various factors that took into account. What we need to do now is how can we help these people to rehabilitate these people, not to try to justify or blame one group, because we all directly and indirectly were affected and were part of the process. So I think what we should be doing now is to find a way how national government or other institutions that we can work along with them to rehabilitate these people. I think that what we should be talking about. We should not go to the past to point out other people thought this way, other people thought about bringing this. Because some of us in Liberia, we knew what happened there that led to that war.
Okay, find a way. Liberal, do you have that way? Before I come to Professor and I'll go back to Director Weeks. We're not hearing you.
Well, here we go. Good evening, Director Weeks. Thank you.
Yeah.
All I can say on this thing here, Mr. So, is that Director Weeks is doing a wonderful job, and we appreciate it. That's all that I can say on this.
Professor?
Yeah, I would share,
Yeah, before you come in, you support the agenda of this government, and this is not meant because some of these things been ongoing type for quite a long while here. But somebody here, Mr. Thomas here is writing. How the government will rehabilitate these people when they enrich themselves? That's not my writing here. So the question we're going to come back, maybe we're going to restructure that question and come back here because he goes out there to do this thing here for the people to see. That's another way of claiming government attention, claiming national leaders' attention. But is there anybody listening? I will be asking whether anybody has called him one day because places that he go, I can tell you for sure, some of the places, that's a maximum risk. Because I heard the other guy saying here, the reason we don't allow people to come here. So it means there's some sort of confidence to trust him that with the hope when those camera rolls in there will be some, attention at the end of the day. And I think he has managed to create that sort of connection because there are different people you always bring in. But let me just bring you in here. Professor,
Before you do that, before the professor coming, I think if I just leave it like this and know my relationship with the director, I don't think it will be fair and might be read differently. Yeah.
You're an equal.
Let me just say this: in many of the time, I want to utilize the director footage that he put out there, but the fact that he's a relative, so to speak, I try to stay away from it because I don't want to come across as being using the footage of director Kwame process and then try to criticize. So I try to, because there's so many things that you can say when he makes this video. And I know when he does these things, it's not because he wants to criticize the government or try to criticize somebody, but to say, look, this is my job and this is what we have. I'm just showing you what we have. I'm not making it up. I didn't bring this thing here. They were here, but we have to expose them. But my reason of trying to stay away from it is how will other people interpret my involvement? How will other people interpret
Oh,
me utilizing that for this? Mr. So, you can say all you want to say, but we got to be very careful how we deal with these things here. And these are our brothers and sisters. So if they put themselves, I'm not going to come out here and try to emphasize something.
so
If I want to use something, non-director Wiggs footage, and I'm being very honest with you.
It could
this
help the
is so
government.
No,
this
but
is so ridiculous on your
no, but I
part,
don't think
Sergeant. So to say what you say
I
here.
don't think it's ridiculous what he said. I think the Liberal Progressive is a very experienced person, and he understands our Liberian politics and the way things are sometimes interpreted. So I think what he said is not ridiculous. It's really, really on point. I agree with him. You know, even
You don't call CDC out here. You don't call issue when the
but
wrong.
that, no, but I understand that. But that's you know
Okay, yeah, anyway, yeah.
Dr. Weeks, let me commend you for what you do. I'm one of your ardent followers, and you know you're doing a wonderful job. In fact, for me, your best show was Fatu Dole, the lady with HIV. I think in Stockholm, Sweden. That was an amazing story. That story crossed country lines. You know what I would love to see you do, and maybe you are doing it already. To see how you can compile. I know you got your YouTube channel also, but compile all of this into some vlog, video blog, or something like that that people can be able to go to from time to time and see it. You know, and you know maybe even yeah, because I think it tells the story of Liberia. And you know, another thing I wanted to say is that the fact that you are able, those guys are able to allow you to go to that place and talk to them, it says a lot about your person. That you are making connection with ordinary people, that they can trust you to go over there. I think that's a wonderful accomplishment. But I do understand what the Liberal Progressive is saying, that you know you are doing a wonderful job, which could be misconstrued, even though that we have signed, he had decriminalized free speech. But you know, we have different currents in government. Sometimes certain currents might take it like a criticism, but you're doing a wonderful job, and you know, keep it up. And when it comes to people claiming that you know government officials are enriching themselves on how would they address this problem, yes, the government officials who are trying to address the problem. He's addressing the problem by bringing it up front so that all Liberians will see. Government cannot solve all the problems.
Right.
These are issues that we ordinary Liberians. When I watched it, honestly, from my personal position, I'm thinking about doing something. What I'm going to do, I don't know yet. But I'm really thinking about doing something. When I look at the face of this guy, 16 years old, he still got a whole life. That man can become a doctor.
Yeah.
He still can become an engineer, right? Yes, he's put on the right path. It might take him long, but he's 16. He's still got a whole long life before him. So rather than, you know, but, you know, so I'm thinking, and I hope other people who watched it will also be thinking in that light. What can we do together?
Okay,
Address that problem.
let me go back to this, and I will come back to Director Weeks.
Yeah, 200.
And she wants support. I did too. She
That's
gotta
like-
do. The more she sleep with niggas, the more she generate money.
You ever got pregnant before?
No.
Do you have baby?
No.
This is sad. You got her name down? This girl? Put her name, take her name down. Okay?
Okay,
Yeah, go ask her.
let me bring you in here. Director, are you there?
Yeah, I'm here.
These things, they go viral. So I'm wondering, people that are in charge, the authorities, do they call you and say, hey, I saw XYZ, this is what we need to do? Is anybody taking any action? Are they taking any action to address the situation? Or we just talk about it, you go places from place to places and you talk about it and that's the end of it?
This particular video just been aired. It is not 24 hours yet, but there are a couple of videos that have been called by some officials, and the review has been positive. You're doing a great job, and it's our hope that something changes. But let me just address what the liberal is. I don't know if so. He's now pulling from his liberal stance I don't know if he wants to adopt a more conservative stand or what. I don't know
I don't
because
know what he represents
when
nowadays. Maybe here tonight he will
when
tell us.
No, when
when
it comes to family,
Will
when
you please
hold
wait,
on,
please,
hold
sir?
on, hold on. As a political pundit, you're here. It's a matter of months. LPR is paying you to opinionate on everything, no matter what. You tell it as it is, whether your cousin likes it or not. You cannot yield, or else we'll find somebody to replace you with that flag behind you on your right
No,
shoulder.
we can't do so. We can't do so. Kwame, his money too long. We need his money.
So y'all want that man there. That's what I gotta tell you.
Yeah.
The next time he passed the buck, the camera will never be on for him again.
No, we can't do so, Kwame. That's why he was telling Mr. So, and Mr. So said, if I get ready, I will pay my bill. So that's it. That from upon God. We got him.
So, what do these people anticipate after you talk to these people here? What do they anticipate? What is their hope? It gives them hope that one of these days, because I was shocked, people who are elected, they went to those places, take these people there, carry them, transported them from Morovia, went to other places, voted for them, brought them back, and just say bye bye because they are there for 6 years, they are there for 9 years.
Yeah, that is an allegation from a journalistic point of view. I will not take that and run with it till I can talk to Senator Kape and hear his side. Why it's true, also. But having said that, um, if you're not addicted to drugs, you will never see the pain these guys are going
Yeah.
through.
Yeah.
How they've arrived at this particular point. And only those who are, psychologists or psychiatrists or, therapists and all of those people with the experience know the pain these guys are going through, and how when you're stuck, it is a habit that is easily to acquire. But when you acquire it, to leave it, you're stuck. You're stuck. And most of these guys, the problem is not money. They got stuck on drugs, because they chose the drugs over their family. Like the little girl that I talked to who's prostituting all over the place. Her parents called me from the US today and they were crying on me.
Look at
And
that.
they said, yeah, the lady says she's sending me $600 tomorrow to get her passport, take her to rehab. And she was crying, said, we just thought she was dead. We don't know where she is.
Wow.
So it is not, most people hear about drugs and addiction. They just think that poor people or who society. No, not all of these guys. Most of these guys. That you hear that girl. She goes to Saint Teresa Convent, STC.
She goes
Yes,
there
she's
now.
sleeping.
Let me bring that out here. I'm
Yeah,
not sure whether that is person here, but let me see because I
play
think
her. Yeah, play her.
So
Yeah, that's
what are
her.
you gonna do to quit this? Because I've tried with a couple of people. I was successful with only three. Yeah, I've tried with at least 10 persons, but I was successful with three now, and I'm willing to take a chance with 3, 4 persons here.
I pray I'll be one of them.
Of course, you're gonna be one. She's gonna be one. Gonna
this is what caught my attention, Mr. Weeks. I pray to be among them. That is consolatory that I want to get out of here, but there's no
Yeah,
means of me getting out. And I was watching the live view. Somebody was writing there, oh, I know this person, so person
yeah,
here. That was it.
yeah.
So there's a lot of intervention here being taking place. When she said that word, I prayed to be among them. What comes to mind?
So a group calling itself Roses Foundation Charity, as we speak, they've sent, they asked me, they sent money for me to get that girl tomorrow at my office, and they paying for the 9 months rehab fees to get her to rehab as soon as possible. And her parents also has sent the money for her to get a passport and to see if they can process her paperwork to go to join them in the US. But my thing is, I've tried with over 10 cases, and I've only been successful with like 3 persons who were able to cross the 7 months marker. And it's my hope that they go. I'm just on pins and needle, hoping that they complete their process. But it's been challenging, and they've been doing good so far. They're clean, totally clean, and they're back to their normal self. They will sometimes leave rehab and come to me at the office. We interact. They ride my car. We go around. I use them for examples. I don't put the cameras on, and I use them for perfect example. One of them I'm inviting when I invite this little girl. This little girl, just that you didn't play the tip from the beginning, she sleeps on market table according to her for 75 cents.
Yeah, I saw one of that.
Yeah.
So let me ask you, the director, the fact that you're director of news, can you go to the ministry, those that are responsible to make sure these children are taken care of in terms of rehab and things? Can you go and have a conversation with them without any kind of repercussion?
Of course, 1,000,000%. As a matter of fact, I've interacted with Minister Zoga Wilson, and one of the rehab centers we deal with, he's been sending people out there. Before the Minister of Gender, we talk all the time. She's a small sister and confidant, and we work together. And she's been my boss on the media committee for the CDC. Mrs. Honorable Tar, and so many people. I mean, this government is one who sends out its lieutenants, say, look for the problem and let's see how we can solve them. And for this particular video, I know before the day ends, we will hear some stuff. But my thing is, most of these programs, some people, just because they don't know, we don't have that many professionals in this country to know what kind of angle to tackle these problems. Because when you take these people and say you're sending them to rehab and they get detoxed, and you send them to vocational training places, when they graduate, you do the pageantry, they get the degrees or the certificates. Then you leave them to go in the street with no jobs. They end up coming right back.
They're going right back.
So it's a recycle problem. That's what's happening. Most of these guys will tell you, say, I've been to rehab. I attended VTC with the Ministry of Youth and Sports program. Everything I passed, crystal clear. But then I couldn't keep a job, and so I'm right back.
And that's serious.
So you got a phone call from the family, or they thought that child was dead.
Power of social media. Power of social media.
Let me come in here. I think there was the last girl whose family is in the U.S. or which one of them, or the first one?
The last one. Yeah, the last one.
What happened to the other girl before that? Any information about her? Because how much does it cost to put them in the rehab?
It's a 9-month process with $50 a month.
Okay.
And in those 9 months, you get they'll ask you to pay half of that money because they have to buy the mattress, and then get a mosquito net, and then get different stuff within the first half, and then after that now you move. And then they're gonna they have counselors coming. You got to be given because they do the detoxification they do it naturally. So you don't get stuck on whatever medicine they give it to you, as an antidote or whatever. So then you it's like you're taking drugs to stop drugs, So every time you go take it, you can run to those. So the pastor makes it natural, and a lot of people, over hundreds of people, graduate every year.
Yeah, I would love to follow up on that girl, the first one.
Let me see here. I believe. Let me see here to make sure. This is just so.
It's disheartening, really disheartening.
Yeah, I would love to really follow
up. I think that this phase here, right, Professor?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's the one that says she sleeps on the market table because I listened to that today.
No, no, this one, that's not
No,
this one also. This one says she sleeps to 15 men a day. Yeah.
We can work to end that.
Wow.
We can work to stop that. How old is she?
She's I think 19, huh?
Yeah, she said, yeah, something. Yeah, I think 19 or 20 or something. Or yeah, she's
She's
still.
not in her 20s, she's 19.
Is there anyone that is 16, 15 in that group? Can you find one of those
Yeah,
girls who are
yeah,
16?
yeah, the little boy, he's 50, he's 16 years old.
I was interested in a girl who's 16, 15, like that.
Yeah.
Anyway, Dr. Weeks, I know, I mean, Director Weeks, I know you engage these people, but I would be very, very much interested in a 15, 16-year-old girl. And
Yeah.
if you can find one of them,
See that kid behind there with the green shirt, he's 16 years old.
Okay, yeah. But I'll be more interested in a girl who's 16, 15. But I will also consider that guy. But I will do a follow-up with you. I will message you and see how we can get involved. Maybe to take two of them from over
Is that a girl or a boy? Because this is.
that's a boy.
That's a boy.
I don't know what happened to my old man eyes tonight.
Okay, this guy's, hold on. Let me talk about that guy. Go back. Let me talk about that guy.
This one?
This guy. So this guy, he was at the age of 17. He was in Grand Crew, according to him. Then he had he had some gold. He and the police came and they brought the gold to Monrovia to sell. And then after the sale, he got 36,000 Liberian dollars. Then that was 14 years ago. So that night he decided to get laid and went to find a prostitute. So after they slept with the girl went and blew alarm as if to say she was getting raped because she saw the money with him. And then all her people came in the room and then they called police. They took the money and they left. And the police took him and charged him for rape. And they took him. He spent 14 years in South Beach. And he got free and just thrown out. He don't even know his way back to Grand Crew, according to him. He was making his way to the camera. Man, if you listen to this guy, you know how genuine his voice is. And
let's listen here a little bit here. Let's get a little pick of it.
I thank God for you coming in. I want you to highly appreciate my people on here because you've been in the job of my parents for me.
I see that. He takes care of everybody. Your story is one that is very, very unfortunate.
Go back.
That you came, to do your business, and because you want to find out 7 years.
Yes, and I'm willing
You're willing to leave it. Okay, we're gonna get your name and later on get your photo. And so we're gonna put all of you together.
Wow.
All of you who names we're gonna take, we're gonna stand there. They're gonna take your picture and we'll tie your name to it and send it to our some partners or whatever, and a government official or anybody, and a good citizen can help to take you guys off.
sir,
Yeah.
this is how first of all, how we get our money comes to supporting our hobby.
So what he got there now?
This is the same bag.
The same bag he get on his bike.
He carried to a customer to buy it. And this same bag,
35 cents.
started to what, 1 week. And 1 wheelbarrow of sand is equivalent to a $70 liberty.
70 liberty?
Yes.
So he needs 3 of these to get 35 cents.
Yes. So we are just using our own means to get varies with community.
So 9 bags will put him around 200.
Yeah, so when he got roughly about 600, it's okay. And come and buy his talent work and king. It's okay for the day. And then we go back.
Man, I can't do this.
So why would we get that?
Mr. So when you look at this thing, and you have to wonder, why do we have to play politics daily when there are serious problems in our country? Why?
See,
Why is
when When the liberal
Yeah, go
is
ahead.
muted, when he speaks, you will hear a lot of wisdom. And I knew he has something reserved to say, and he hit the nail on the ball.
Right.
Yeah.
Yes.
These,
But
these are,
anyway, that's the liberal progressive. But let me finish this. The point here is, yeah, it's good to be politics. My thing is, Dr. Weir signed a contract with the Liberian people for 6 years. In the meantime, he's our leader. And many of the opposition that have the experience, those that used to be with Ellen, are no longer in government position or whatsoever. You don't have to be paid to write a paper for people who are now in government to be able to read what you have done. And perhaps they can try to tell us these kinds of stuff towards the solving of the issue. We don't do that. We think that if we offer help or whatever, people are going to use it and they're not going to give us credit. No, we say if we do that, then this man going to be elected for the. Who cares?
Right.
It's times.
Right.
I got my
Right.
binder, CDC, unforced error binders. In 6 years' time, I will pick up my binder and go on. But in the meantime, right now, he's our president. And we have to do everything possible to make sure these kids. That's what there's been. I've always said it. Those of us that saw him when he was playing football, he used to come to Monrovia and people will show the video when the whole war will stop. So why now you think if he's the president that he will not be able to cater himself to these young people? It's because of politics. But and then again, I'm an opposition. I'm here. I want to win. So, but that's very sad.
Mr. Toad, this thing is two ways. You have to blame every side. In Liberia, if people are not in power, even the one that have most of them, they will say, don't listen to our man, they were there, they didn't do it. And now he want to tell what to do. So in both ways, if the ruling party is willing, the government is willing to accept those things, if they make the call, people will respond. That's another way. And if these people know that they are legitimate, they are concerned, they can make, but the thing is, what when you make this recommendation, what the ruling government will take it? That's another different thing. So you can't just say people are doing it because of politics. No, it's that Liberians' mentality. That's always been our mentality. That once the party leave power, someone from there even making recommendations, the government will not want to take it. Because the thing that even if they take it, the same thing you're saying, that those people get credit. And those people thinking that the government will get credit. So until we do away with those ideas, you know, that was the last time I saw a video. I think that's about 6 years old. Went behind a hut to hang himself, Mr. So I don't know, I sent that video to you. So the owner of the property, so somebody went behind and saw the rope around her neck and started screaming. 6 years old.
I saw that video.
Okay, I think I sent it to you, Mr. Toad. All the people came around. You know what they said? They said, oh, the other man said, you're going whipping. That will be. The other man said, well, you saw it from the movies. So I text the guy who was posting the video. And I asked, I said, can you connect me to the family? He asked me, are you in Monrovia? And I told him, I said, that is not what I'm talking about. I want to get connected to this poor parent. And the gentleman told me, I can only be connected until I get to him. You see our people? So right away, I just said, oh, well, thank you. These are some of the things. Because, like Mr. Weeks, if someone, the professor said, okay, I will talk, because he went, that's an area, he knows the people, this and that. But if he posted something and I said, oh, Mr. Weeks, can I get in touch with the former? I know Mr. Weeks said, okay, I will recommend, I will get in touch. But that's not my question.
Does that, you don't provide it. If you don't have phone number, well, then call me.
Yeah, but so Mr. Josh, I think those will happen. Those things will happen. And I agree with you. There are instances when those things happen. But I think what the Liberal Progressive said is appropriate. Then, God bless Professor Director Weeks. You go to you being in Monrovia, the number of political talk shows we have. Some of these issues that we are talking about.
Nothing educative, nothing.
country will be better. Because it doesn't matter about the government, I mean, government should be able to provide services for its people. Understand it. I'm a socialist and I would expect that government services should be expanded to all aspects. And I expect government to be good, not just this government, but all previous government. I expected that they would have addressed these problems. The matter is that government cannot solve all the problems. Now, when I look at this, and then I look at the public outcry about Indian men feeding Liberians online, well, Liberians are getting angry, and you're getting angry. Then I'm thinking about this thing that Director Weeks has just brought. Let's see the number of Liberians. If I were to say today, you know what? Let's start a GoFundMe. Take all of the guys. We listen to guys. All from there don't want to live there, right? They all want to express desire to be. So is it possible for us here in America? Let's go in Liberia. Is it possible for us here to raise enough money to shut down that place where the guys are? I think it should be possible.
Yeah, we can do it.
It should be possible. The problem is we make it to politics. We not give it. We not want to do it. And that's the thing that needs to address about. That's the thing that we're about. So that's the beyond politics. Because guess what? If those guys continue to live over there, as they grow older, they have to find a way.
Let me share this with you. In the video, there is nothing like growing older. They when they die, they have a place where they mark the names on the wall, the deceased.
Yeah, so I said the guy said
they grow no older.
But what I'm saying is that even as they, as a struggle, the challenges of life become even more difficult, they will have to find a way to survive.
Okay. They don't pass 5 to 10 years in there. They don't. Wow. None of them. Yeah.
Okay, guys, I think we are running out of time here, but Director, how long can you go with this?
As in,
how long can you go along going those places, bringing this sort of really touching, defining moment? What happens today now?
As long as I'm alive, because it takes nothing. It just takes you being alive and healthy and armed with a camera with few data on, and you're there. You just have to. And it is not like yesterday we had 4 beautiful young women. I think you were online. You heard their stories. Chilling stories coming from those girls. Why it's true, they're all beautiful, looking good, but in their hearts, Alfonso, you were there. You followed that video, and it was gut-wrenching to see where a lady had 8 children, and 4, they would send 4 day year to school, and then when they passed, they would sit down, and then another 4 go to school again the following year because there was no money, So they have to either fight, and she had to tell the children, if you fight for scholarship, you can continue your school. And but if you don't get a scholarship, once that, so 2018, only 4 will go. 2019, another 4. Then the 4 that went 2018 will go 2020. I mean, the other girl will, man, I'm just done.
Professor, Director Wiggs, this is what I try to stay out of, but I'm forced now to do this. These are structural problems, serious issue.
Yep.
Why you will have these kinds of things, and the Minister of Finance will go on record to say the Republic of Liberia has surplus fund when there's nothing to address any of these things. Why would we do that? Number one. Second, this government, and I'm saying, if I say that, people criticize me. The head of the government, I have no issues. But those who are tasked to actually implement some of the policy, they're failing all of us. But then again, when will they be brought to book to say you're not doing your job, you're not doing X, Y, and Z? So I'm very concerned that this thing here, and so when these people, for example, this stuff that you just explained to us, why is the Minister of Information will not come out and say, look at the problem we have? Other than that, people will take this issue and turn it into politics, and those of us who are in the opposition will improvise. The fact that no one is coming from the government side to explain, we will leave it. You leave the blank out, we'll fill in the blank.
All right, we're gonna leave it there. You have to put his own foot in his mouth
One
now.
thing I want to Director Wicks is that the area, this which constituency that these things are happening, which lawmaker in this area?
Abu Kamara.
No, in Zimbabwe, it is Enders.
So that's
the Revy?
That's Queensway area.
Yeah, Enders.
I think you guys are the very same thing we're accusing the people of doing. I want to politicize this thing. I don't think it has to.
He said you are not going to politicize it. I thought you are the men are reliable to do it.
This is a social problem. Another thing this is a social problem. It goes beyond political jurisdictions, because those people will be coming from different areas and all converging over there. That's one. Two, the existence of the problem does not necessarily mean that government is doing nothing to address this issue. It could be that the problems are just heaping up, that government doesn't have sufficient resources to be able to address all of these problems. Okay? Just because we have it doesn't mean that government is not doing anything about it.
Right.
So it doesn't mean that the president, lieutenants are not doing anything. I'm sure each one of those people, the people who are responsible for this, I know, for example, Minister Zoga Wills can know him personally. I know that he won't sit in his office and do nothing about a problem like this. I know I know that she will.
Let me share this with you. The Youth and Sports Ministry got the TVET program. They're running this vocational thing with hundreds of youth, at-risk youth, they call them. They go around these different areas. But I think there's something that might be lacking, maybe it is in identifying these people who are supposed to go, or it is the end game, or what's happening. So it's like our role is, okay, you think you got all the water out, but we want to go race out and say there are more water here, just so that, the country doesn't drown. That's what we're doing, and that's our role. So tomorrow people be like, you were there, what did you do? Why you didn't show it? Our Liberian people. So we that's our role, is to show it, and then those who are responsible to solve the problem.
Yeah, I agree with you on that.
Yeah,
I mean, and that's what I differ with the liberal, because his line was, we should have facts, and that's not our job. Put it out, and there will be action. Because you wait, it becomes obituary. Yeah, when you wait until it becomes obituary and you want to talk about it, then you have facilitated that the cause of that. Well, gentlemen, I think time has caught up with us. Director Wicks, I want to thank you so much, and every now and then we'll try to tap into you, so just to add up to what that happens in a day. And the more we keep talking these things here, so we hope that at national government or those in authority, is the National Rehabilitation Center, is it still functioning?
I have no idea. I know a couple. I know 5. I know 5 rehab centers, but the rehab that is here that is named after rehab, I don't think it is functioning. But there are so many private ones all around. There is a mental home for JFK that is functioning. There's Grant is functioning. There is one way in Marshall. There is one in Nizo. I know a lot of them around private that are doing impeccably well.
Okay, guys.
Pastor Caleb Dama, who used to play.
Tell us, Compa George, what's your take-home message? So before we wrap up,
I want to tell Director Wicks, thank you for what he's doing, continue to flag this issue up. And let me say this: we have to talk this thing. I know that the laws maker. It's not a job to go door to doors, but equally they should be concerned about those are part of the constituency, those are laid in that area. We know these children move from one place to another. But sometimes if somebody lawmaker sometimes trying to throw weight in it, maybe calling the youth and school minister, gender affairs, and say, look, visit this area. I know people trying, but there are other groups that are more at risk at this time.
Right.
Okay.
You know, that can claim the attention, not directly to say they must get involved, but they can call these people in the different agencies and say, look, this is my area here. We observe this thing. You can go there and try to evaluate some of these children to see what we can do. And another thing is, some of these children are of school age. If we have a national agriculture project program where when you train these
Yeah.
guys, they can go there and start earning some living.
Somebody said that.
Yeah, that will help to solve some of the problems. But even if you train them, the detox, danger, because when you get someone away from drugs, the people that were mingle, they're not supposed to go around the people because it will take them back into it. So I just want to say this is a very serious concern, and I hope our national leaders should look at this. This is threat to the survival of our society.
Okay. All right. Thank you so much, Professor.
Yeah, well, look, thank you very much, Mr. Soon, and thank you very much, gentlemen, for a wonderful show. Director Weeks, I want to encourage you to continue to do what you do. There are those of us who are doing our little things there to help in one way. I would be interested in following and seeing how I can take one or two of those kids from over there, have them rehabilitated, and move them over to Kakata to attend one of my schools. Well, you know, the girls, for example, have an opportunity to get some training in cosmetology.
Brilliant.
And you know, take care of herself. So that's something I'm definitely interested in doing. I will follow up with you through Messenger, so that we can take you know, one boy and one girl and give them a better life.
Good job.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Professor Week, thank you again. And one of my requests is
are you not telling the CDC, Professor, thank you?
For what? Where has the professor done tonight except to praise CDC? He had to praise CDC. I must say thank you for praising CDC.
But you already did a Director General, thank you, and a man at the CDC Director General.
Well, anyway,
he said that heredity.
Professor Director, I hope you don't mind sometime that I get hold of these things as well and then try to play on my shows from time to time. I hope that you will do some infrastructure project as well so that we can pick up something. But one last thing I want to say, I'm not surprised with what you're doing. This is the story. Even when you were here, I used to tell you this guy's mother, back in the days when I was still there, one afternoon, true story. Just give me 1 second, Mr. So, please. True story. One afternoon in Zwadru.
That's not total story.
Mr. So, please. One afternoon in Zwadru. We were coming from school, bunch of us. And there's one Manigo boy called Mahala or Laha.
Lai Musa.
He wanted to smoke. So when you say I'm coming to smoke, and the prison, when they said the prisoner smoking, that is long pepper, they call it crab pepper. So he decided to smoke. He take the crab pepper and start eating. In less than a minute, La Musa fell down and started almost going out. They all were in front of Mr. Weeks' house. She went in the backyard and brought gallon of palm oil and let La Musa drink that. That's what saved it. So I'm not surprised. Your concern for people, we know where that come from. Keep on a good job, and we appreciate it.
Okay, Director, what's your final message?
I'm so happy to be, hanging out with brilliant brains out here today and all the time. It's always been a pleasure hanging out on LPR. And like I told you, anytime I'm free, this is one platform, I'm free to come on because I like the heat, especially when it's coming from my own liberal progressive. I like to push him sometimes to the point, like he said, let me push you a bit all the time. And then, when you try to push him, then he gets nervous. But anyway, it's a good thing, and I'm looking forward to being here with y'all today. And Professor, thank you also for that, for reaching out to us, and all our programs. You're free to air them. What his name, Mr. So.
All right. Director, that's
Director, we just one
Tony
secret.
Opa
The
with
member of
Sabrina.
Progressive is an undercover citizen, by the way.
Oh my goodness.
I think that will be the last word for the night.
Wow.
And he running to Total. He takes that from
Yeah.
Total to do it there.
You know what? If and 1 second, if the road from Total to Zwedu get completed, he's gonna convert.
Oh, the man already,
got a
the man, you
supervisor
hear what the
construction.
professor said. The man, he already on the way, so
He
he
said
already
he got a
converted.
supervisor construction from Total to Zeto. He said he got a supervisor construction.
Oh wow.
Like he said, I start to measure
He
this
right there.
supervisor
Ask him.
construction. Okay, gentlemen, Director Wicks, I want to thank you so much, and I don't know, your work is so much extraordinary. It's always a touch and movement. What you did today, I think it's a big relief to that family. They had no idea. If your camera had not gone there, all they know that person is dead.
I know.
Yeah.
But now that camera rose into that pit, into that hole, and they were able to see one of their own still alive. Now
Yeah.
light is about to shine. Hear what the professor is saying. We want to thank you so much. We hope to be. I hope what you are doing, other people within the establishment will not see it, and I hope they will support your cause. Because I want not you go there, you give things. I don't know who giving it, where it's coming from, because part of that is the confidence building in order to allow you. Do these people they don't want to reach out to you quickly here? How you get these people to reach out? People call you.
We come back to, I mean, as journalists, we got to have the nose for the news. When you see
Right.
something that you think is sketchy. So that day when we saw GT feeding these people, I didn't look at the feeding process. I was like, there has to be something. And I saw the house. I'm
Beyond
like,
the feeding.
right.
Your focus was something beyond the feeding. Okay. Ooh, I mean, thank you so much being up time like this in Liberia, almost maybe 2 o'clock or whatever the time it is. Thank you so much. And I bet by 7 o'clock tomorrow morning, 7 o'clock you're out again on your feet.
Of
So
course.
let's have you go out and have some rest. Thank you so much for the time this evening.
Okay.
All right.
Yeah.
And I see all the creation, the beauty of the universe. You never change. You never lie.
To our viewers and followers, we want to thank you so much for joining us here this evening. Until then, by God's willing, same time, same station, we're going to be here with more programming. Have a pleasant evening.
Hallelujah. Hallelujah. Hey, hey. Hallelujah.